Our next speaker is Becki Gray. She's the Director of Finance and Personnel at BeNT Productions Incorporated. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Becki Gray, and until March, I was the CFO of BeNT Productions Incorporated, a small scenery fabrication company located in central Massachusetts. We employed as many as 5 full-time people and typically had between 25 and 40 part-time freelance employees. My spouse and I officially opened BeNT Productions on July 1st of 2009, 3 days before we somewhat unexpectedly welcomed our first child into the world. It was an ideal time to start a business. Between the global recession and systemic financial collapse and a brand new baby, we had nothing but time on our hands and expectations of smooth sailing as we opened our doors. Over the past 11 years, we have slowly built our business on the premise that we are all on the same team. Our employees, our clients, all of us are working towards a goal, and we are all here to take care of each other. Richard, my husband, and I have sacrificed Christmases, Thanksgivings, Easters, and Halloweens building this company, building our clients' events, and trying to cushion our employees from having to make those sacrifices despite the nature of the industry we are in. Between March 11 and 13th, my company lost $300,000 in signed contracts. My clients and I worked together to refund their deposit money not already spent. I paid out booked freelancers 4 hours for every canceled call. I immediately laid off full-time employees and called each one to update them and advise them to access unemployment ASAP before the rush. I emailed my entire freelance list to offer assistance accessing appropriate benefits for their situation. For my freelancers and full-time employees who didn't immediately file for unemployment, I followed up via the phone to offer to walk them through the process. For the first 8 weeks of the pandemic, when the unemployment office was completely unavailable via phone, email, or visitation, I offered my time and resources to every freelancer who was struggling to access their benefits, whether they were on my payroll or not. We applied for PPP lending and were granted it. 8 weeks of funding. For our industry, today marks the beginning of the 32nd week in closure with no end in sight. We pivoted. We manufactured face shields, stanchions, and polycarbonate shields. But our business has always been prototyping, not necessarily assembly lining, so we don't have the equipment to do that at scale. We pivoted again. We've been doing small home remodels and construction projects, but no current funding allows for a real change. All available funding is geared towards maintaining what you are already doing. In August, we received a series of news that signaled the end of our company. Our clients, watching the local and national trends, all decided to remain closed until at least spring. Our lease expired and the landlord needs our space. I cannot justify signing onto a new lease with no income in sight, nor can I use the funding that I have received to pay for a lease that wasn't signed before February 15th of this year. Our oldest is now a reasonably happy and healthy 11-year-old. Her sister is now 7. We are pivoting in a world with limited childcare, a world where our government has abdicated responsibility, a world where anyone's best guess is often treated as equal to a professional's educated opinion. BeNT cannot keep spinning in that world, trying to find our footing. I spent the last few days packing my office. There were the usual piles of paperwork that I'm happy to get rid of. But packing up my children's art projects and small gifts from my employees has been incredibly upsetting. I have been largely paralyzed whenever I approach packing up my part of our manufacturing space. The soft goods loft, where I have built custom drapes, sculptures, and even Dragon, the 20-foot-long puppet for a local production of Shrek the Musical. Many of my employees are finding their footing. Some are working at grocery stores for rather less than they were being paid as skilled artisans. Some have moved back in with their parents, which for some meant moving across the country. My spouse has accepted a job at a local manufacturing company, and we will be getting one income until such time as schools reopen safely for students and teachers. When the country has lost 25 million jobs, 12 million of them in the live events industry, there are not jobs just waiting for people to take them. Federal leadership has a responsibility to financially support the millions of citizens who have been left high and dry in this pandemic, including sector-specific funding. Governor Baker and his administration has a responsibility to bring live events experts onto their reopening committee. We have a list of names for consideration. And the live events community has a responsibility to create safe live events, a responsibility that we are ready to shoulder.